Today we are bringing you our very classic staple of the podcast when we have nothing else to talk about. What have you been watching lately?
What have you been watching lately?
Keep it short,
tell
tell
me
me right now.
We created this segment. No one else has ever done this before.
First time ever of all time.
But also, I would like to thank, I don't think we do this enough, but thank you, Marcus Estevez, Norris
Yes.
the Terrible.
Yep.
He did all of our themes, all of our music. Because some people online think that I sing the theme songs. That's not the case. Horrible singing boys.
It's very
also
clear
not very
when
creative.
it's very clear when you've done one because it's not creative and there's low production quality. You know, as good as you are producing things, when you produce your own musical bits, not great.
So here's the thing, is that I'm so bad musically
Yeah.
that I go so far on the other end of like, if I try and make it sound good, people will be like, oh, he's trying.
Right.
But if
right,
it just
right.
sounds bad and it sounds like shit, they're like, oh,
That's the thing.
it's
Yeah.
funny, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. If you want to give Marcus a nice follow, he's Norris the Terrible
Yeah.
on Spotify, all that shit, wherever you can get music.
It's
Goo!
sad that he's no longer with us.
Goo. Today, we have 4 movies and a show to talk about, a couple of which
The original title of that movie with the funerals and the wedding.
4 movies, a show, and a pizza place. We have 2 movies apiece, and then I have a show. We've briefly discussed a couple of these. First one we're going to talk about today, Goo, is freshly on streaming on the cock as
Yeah.
of August 11, Asteroid City.
I also watched a movie called Asteroid City on the
Yes,
cock.
yes,
Are we
yes.
talking about the same thing?
Is there a thecock.com?
There's got to be, right?
There's got to be. I don't know if I won't be the first one to go there, but someone
If
look
someone
that
can
up
do
for
a
me.
little, recognizance for us.
Reconnaissance would be the word.
What did I say?
Recognizance. You sort of combined 2 words there.
And just see if there's a movie called Asteroid City. There.
I should have 7 years ago started taking notes of the 2 words you combine when, like, I still know what you're talking about because of context, but you're the king of combining 2 words when you meant one. Asteroid City on Peacock, PG-13, comedy, drama, and romance with a runtime of 105 minutes. So hypothetically, it's not that long, but it feels longer than that. This has a runtime of this has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 74% from the critics, 62% from the audience, and a 74 on Metacritic. This is the latest film from Wes Anderson, a movie that I was somewhat looking forward to this year. I believe I kept it out of the movie draft last year. It got delayed. So I don't know if I'm a quote unquote Wes Anderson guy because he is kind of hit or miss for me. But the highs of Wes Anderson movies, I think, are up there with any of the best directors of his generation. The problem is sometimes he just gets too Wes Anderson-y, if that makes sense for the folks at home. And this might be a perfect example of that. This is written by Roman Coppola, who helped him out, who was a co-writer on Moonrise Kingdom, Isle of Dogs, and The French Dispatch. He's also the writer on that show, Mozart in the Jungle, which I've never seen, but heard a little bit about. And of course, Wes Anderson also wrote this, directed by Wes Anderson. You may know him from Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Eye of Dogs, and The French Dispatch. So my thing with Wes Anderson is I think he's probably given us like 2, 3, 4 of the best movies of the last 25 years. The Grand Budapest Hotel is one of my all-time favorite movies. Lately, though, he seems to be sort of in this area where I don't know if he has enough people telling him no. This is my whole thing too, Goo. Hire me to be the no guy. I'll tell you no. I'll tell you when to not do something. The last 3 for me have been like slight misses. Isle of Dogs, The French Dispatch, and now this Asteroid City. But this especially. Those other 2 I liked. This one I don't think I liked, but it's not bad because I don't know if Wes Anderson will ever make a bad movie. It's just like he's quirky, right? And that's Wes Anderson's whole thing. He's got his own style. The premise of this movie, Goo, is let me give you the synopsis. Following a writer on his world-famous fictional play about a grieving father who travels with his tech-obsessed family to a small rural asteroid city to compete in a junior stargazing event, only to have his worldview disrupted forever. So what Wes Anderson does in this is real meta. He sets this in a world within a world. So there's a narrator who is called the host, played by Bryan Cranston, who is essentially narrating a play, a stage play, and then within the stage play, they dive into this world. So it's like very artsy, too artsy for my liking, a little too meta with that sort of shit. But it's got your classic Wes Anderson stacked cast. It stars Jason Schwartzman as Augie Steenbeck, Scarlett Johansson as Midge Campbell, Tom Hanks as Stanley Zack, Jeffrey Wright as General Gibson, Bryan Cranston as host, Edward Norton as Conrad Earp, Jake Ryan as Woodrow, that is Schwartzman's son in the movie, Grace Edwards as Dinah, Maya Hawke as June, Rupert Friend as Montana, Hope Davis as Sandy Borden, Stephen Park as Roger Cho, and Liev Schreiber as J.J. Kellogg.
I'm still here, guys.
I was filling air there for you while you were looking up nudes on the internet.
I was looking up thecock.com.
Oh, there you go. What, any results?
No, nothing. It's ours. It's ours, actually. We can have it.
We can buy that domain?
Yeah. I wasn't. I was actually entering the titles of the movies we're about to talk about.
This is a movie I'm glad I skipped in theaters. It looks great because all Wes Anderson movies look great in that same Wes Anderson style. It's just like because of the storytelling device of the play in a real world and then them diving into this story.
It's like Mario 3.
It gets disjointed and it's a little hard to follow a couple times. And there's no true like one great character in this or a character you're really rooting for like you have in most Wes Anderson movies. Mm-hmm. And he's also the king of like telling, you know, you have your classic ABC stories, but he likes to tell the ABC stories all as A stories, and then they kind of come together towards the end. I don't know if I can really recommend this to anyone other than Wes Anderson people, and even then, I'm not sure I'm gonna love this. I'll get to the gauntlet here.
Before you do that, just a quick reminder, or not a reminder. I haven't said this yet, but I currently have a sty in my left eye.
Oh, okay.
So for those of you who might be saying, is Goo having a stroke? I'm not. Or does he have conjunctivitis? Like I've had to tell many people today, I don't have conjunctivitis. That's how I've started all my conversations, actually.
Yes, yeah. Have you considered an eye patch?
If it was conjunctivitis and it was pinker with like the discharge, I was gonna wear an eye patch. But right now, it's just kind of droopy.
You got to protect the people from your discharge.
Yeah.
Goo, the octagon, the gauntlet for Asteroid City. Fun factor: this does have like your classic Wes Anderson quirk. It's just not as charming as previous Wes Anderson movies. Satisfactor, I couldn't find anything in here super satisfying. It just it lacked, at least for me, like a high ending as well. Barometer points, it's up and down. Because it's a little disjointed, that's really the bore. It's just what you see on screen isn't bad. You just have a hard time getting behind the characters. Equator, this is right around it. Okay. Today it might float. Tomorrow it might sink. I don't know. Maybe some people are going to like this more than me, but I think like if you look at Rotten Tomato scores for his last few movies, I think this is the lowest one out of all of them. So he's kind of on a downward trend here.
Well, this was the highest grossing one out of the bunch, right?
Yeah, this made like 28 million, 29 million, which I think was basically what the last two made combined, French Dispatch and Isle of Dogs. There was quite a bit of marketing in this too. So I'm not, it might've made 15 million more than French Dispatch, but I don't know if it cleared 15 million more. Goo, the Halloween factor on this one is going to be pretty high. There's no real reason to come back to this. I say that though.
Speaking of coming on here. Back.
There's a full frontal here from Scarlett Johansson. So
nice.
If you're looking for one reason to watch this movie, maybe it's that. And maybe that's the reason you'll come back.
What? This is a big year for Max Rax in the fact that at the end of the year, you have a bunch of candidates.
There's going to be a lot of candidates. Yeah, that's going to be a hotly contested award at the end of the year. Credit union here. Jason Schwartzman's actually great in this. He's the best character in the movie. He's the focus of the movie. I don't know. It's just movie wasn't for me, Goo. 24 hot dogs right around the equator. I got it. The number 22 release of 2023. It's just below Knock at the Cabin and just above Transformers Rise of the Beast. It's not a bad movie. It's just not a movie I can recommend to people.
All right, Mac, the movie that I will now speak about is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That title still stinks. PG-13, 2023, adventure, action, 2 hours and 24 minutes.
That's really long.
Too long, Max. 69% with the critics, 88% on Roddy T's. I actually just looked up the Metacritic and I forgot to put it on there. I think it's around a 54 or something.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Sure,
I don't know.
sure.
It releases on digital on August 29th. Archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time. Keep that in mind. To retrieve a legendary artifact that can change the course of history, directed by James Mangold, written by Jez Butterworth.
That's a
Makes
great
me
name.
think of Jezball. I love Jezball.
Sure.
Also Butterworth, John Henry,
There's
and David Kopp.
2 Butterworths, the writers of this movie. They must be married, I'm assuming.
Butterworths 2 is what they call them.
That's how I know them. Yeah.
Starring Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridges, Toby Jones, and Mads Mikkelsen. And I'll just stick with the cast here for a second. Harrison Ford, he's old. Like, I'm really sorry.
Simmons old.
They should have found a way to not have him be as physical in this movie. Also, when he is de-aged at the beginning, don't use his old man voice.
What era is this movie set in?
It is in the 60s.
60s. Okay. Is there what's the soundtrack? Is there a 60s type soundtrack, or is it more still adventure Indiana Jones stuff?
Nothing popped out to me. Did Rolling Stones play in this movie? The producer, can you help me out really quick?
Diamonds, come on.
Phoebe Waller-Bridges, and actually, so those two, I didn't feel any chemistry between those two characters, and you almost feel like there's nothing redeemable about her. And also, he's old and grumpy now, so like, why do these two? I know that she is his goddaughter because she is the daughter of Toby Jones, and apparently they used to be great friends, yet they've never been mentioned in any of the other movies. But there's nothing that you see with these two that you're like, oh, they actually care about each other.
Does Toby Jones play a bad guy?
He's a good guy.
Oh,
but he's crazy,
right.
and he wants to find the Archimedes dial.
He's usually like the nice bad guy. I'm assuming Mads Mikkelsen plays a bad guy because he's always.
You are
a bad
correct,
guy.
and he plays a Nazi.
That's right up his alley there. Not
So let's
in his
get to the
personal
good.
life, but in his
Let's
acting
get to the
life.
good. So first off, Mads Mikkelsen is good, but he has that down to a science. He's also a scientist in this movie, so credit to him.
Ooh.
He creates NASA.
Really? That's the thing?
No, he sends a guy to the moon. So kinda.
Okay. All right.
What does NASA stand for in the Ariana Grande song?
Oh, what song are you referencing?
I don't know, Needing Space or something. He creates that. He creates the Ariana Grande song. The good in this movie, besides Mads Mikkelsen, like I mentioned earlier, the opening scene is like a 15-minute, it's a de-aging of him getting Nazi art or stealing Nazi art. And that is the standout from this movie. If I can recommend anything to you guys from this movie.
The Nazi heist is what you're recommending?
It's a Nazi train heist. Watch that part of the movie. It's actually great. Look, at some points, the CGI on the de-aged Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, the running looks a little wonky. The mouth doesn't always sync up. The voice is too old. But you can feel the Indiana Jones magic. And really, that's all you want from this, right?
Yeah, I guess that would be the only reason why you would even go and see this, to see if they recapture that.
There's also a spelunking scene, where he is going through the caves with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and that also does feel like Indiana Jones, and that's what you want from an Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of that, there is maybe, I think, the most ridiculous scene of the year where Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, he plays Indiana Jones, introducing Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
Yep.
He steals a police horse as a getaway car, a getaway horse, if you will.
Right.
And then gets away from Nazis by running through the subways, jumping onto the subway rails.
With horse?
And then with a horse. And then like jumping between the tracks and avoiding subway cars with the horse.
That seems like questionable at best.
He's 100 years old, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone of a proper age could do this.
How old's the horse?
The horse is also 80. Telling people to get off his lawn. There's also a tuk-tuk getaway scene too. A lot of green screen. It's a racist horse. But but there's a tuk-tuk scene too, where there's like a chase scene through like the desert, and that also it's a lot of green screen. I don't love that. Plus, I think like 2 weeks later is when MI7 comes out, and the chase scene in that movie just puts this to shame.
Yeah, I hear that.
So I guess it's not entirely its own fault, but it also is. It just can't keep up with what's out in the cinema right now. Anything Indy does physically looks like trash. Like what they do is they start him running and then they cut away immediately. And you're like, how the fuck did he get over there so quick? It's an old guy who has like the hunched back as he runs. Oh, no, the movie's not terrible, but no, it is pretty bad. No,
Yeah.
that was a joke because
Right.
I'm making fun of the old man.
Sure,
But just also the climax of this movie, getting to this, this
Is the Dial of Destiny a watch?
it's a time traveling mechanism.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
All
not
right.
going to give away anything else besides that, but I might recommend for you to see this one scene because
Is there a mid or post credit that involves this time traveling?
no, there is an actual in the movie,
Oh,
and it's really, really stupid. I
I'm
think
gonna
it
look that
might
up.
be Mac and Goo Awards at the end of the year, stupidest moment of the year. It is incredibly dumb. And this is me knowing that the franchise dips into the fantastical, but this is almost beyond that.
yeah. There's also like in the 80s when a gentleman got his heart ripped out of his chest in one of these movies. That was Temple of Doom, I believe. You're like, okay, in the 80s, we can sort of get behind this ridiculousness. And 2023, it's a lot harder to buy into that like hokey, corny Indiana Jones stuff.
This is also one step beyond that. Like, this is one step where you're like, oh, we're doing this in Indiana Jones now.
Right. Okay.
And also, he wants to do what? No, thank you. No, thank you. All right, Mac, the gauntlet real quick. Fun factor, the opening de-aging scene I think is wildly fun. I think everyone should see it and enjoy it because it's just good old-fashioned Nazi hijinks. Stopping Nazi hijinks. We don't want the Nazi hijinks.
I was glad you walked that back a little bit.
That's why pens have erasers, Mac. Satisfactory, the true end of this movie, like the final scene, dips more into the fan servicey way of them trying to end it. But after what they just gave us with the climax, I don't give a shit about it. Plus, it also feels like they showed the movie to test audiences and they're like, oh, you want to see this? Okay, we'll show you this. Also, Satisfactory wise, what they do to Shia LaBeouf, how dare you?
Oh, they mention him in this.
Yes, they mention Mutt in this movie.
Is that his name?
Mutt, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to tell you what happens to him? It's a spoiler.
Yeah, sure. I don't think
All
anyone
right.
cares.
Skip ahead 15 seconds, guys.
Sure.
More like Dia LaBeouf.
Do they mention the means to which he meets his end?
Skip ahead 15 more seconds. He died in war.
World War II?
Korea?
Korea. Yeah. When was the fourth one? What was the time for that one? Where'd that
The
take place?
50s. Maybe.
All
Guys,
right, so
skip
yeah,
ahead 15 more seconds.
Had to have been Korea.
Skip ahead 15 more seconds. Their explanation was that he was trying to be a bit of a rebel against his father, so he signed up for the war. He wasn't even drafted.
Okay. All right. Well,
And we're back to non-spoilers, guys. Borometer tons. It's way, way too long. Equator, right around there, I would say possibly a smidge below. Halloween, yes, and right away. Actually, I'm sorry. No Halloween, because you know right away as you're watching it what this is.
fair enough.
Pants Tent City, the opening scene once again. Credit Union, whoever did the opening scene, credit to them. Whoever wrote it, CGI'd it, how they spent all of their money on it.
Yeah, you did a
That's
good
the fun
job
of the movie.
looking those.
And with
people
all
up.
of that, hot dogs wise, 25.
All right. Yeah, that seems fairly accurate for a movie that
Better than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
is it. Have you been surprised with the scores from this though? Like 88% is pretty high from the audience.
The audience, and first up, I don't give a shit about Roddy Tees, but the audience scores on Roddy Tees, they're drunk for every movie now.
Go!
Yeah.
The next movie up is called Missing. Missing is currently streaming on Netflix. This actually hit theaters in January of this year. I missed it. Most of us missed it. I think it was on Netflix pretty quickly. This is a rated PG-13 drama, mystery, and thriller with a runtime of 111 minutes, so a little under 2 hours. Rotten Tomatoes, 87% from the critics, 90% from the audience, a crisp 66 on Metacritic. This is written by Will Merrick and Nicholas Johnson, their first writing credits, respectively. I believe they're a writing and directing team. Also written by Sev Ohanian, who wrote the predecessor to this, a bit of a prequel called Searching, which starred John Cho from 2018. He also wrote a movie called Run. And Gil, a little tidbit about him. He's the upcoming executive producer on the MCU show Ironheart, which I believe comes out next year.
If it comes out, sure.
Yeah, sure. This is directed by Johnson and Merrick, their first directing credits. They were the editors on 2018's Searching. Synopsis: after her mother goes missing, a young woman tries to find her home using tools available to her online. Now, that sort of undersells this movie. So this is one of those movies, and it's a spiritual sequel to Searching, which was the 2018 movie. This is one of those movies that frames the movie around today's technology. So a lot of what you see on screen is through someone's phone or through a laptop camera, through surveillance footage.
Sibian machines.
Yes, right. And it does a really nice job of using that. Now, it's obviously not the first time or the first movie that's done that, especially since the quote unquote prequel to this did essentially that. I just think they frame it really well through that, and the use of that is done really, really well. This movie stars Storm Reed as June. You would know her from that one. What's the Pedro Pascal show with the zombies? What was that called?
The Last of Us?
The Last of Us. That one episode with Ellie in the mall. Storm Reed plays her friend.
Oh, okay.
You would know her from that.
Yes.
She's been in some other things too. Her mother is played by Nia Long, Grace. Tim Griffin as James. Ken Leung as Kevin. Amy Landecker as Heather. She's the lawyer. Megan Suri plays her friend Vina, and Lisa Yamada is Allison, the quote-unquote other woman. And that's the whole thing in this goo. It's a mystery and thriller here set around June's mother taking like a vacation with her boyfriend, who's kind of a sketchy character. And so then when they're set to land back in America from the vacation, she doesn't land there. And so you're like, oh, what the hell's going on here? And so this whole mystery unravels throughout. So there's a little bit of a slow start here, but once you get into the mystery and thriller, it's very enthralling. I was stunned at how much I liked this movie. It really wrote me in. So if you're into sort of mysteries, thrillers, that the whole nine, this is going to be right up your alley here. I don't know. Like, I know movies have done it. I don't know if I'm trying to think of a movie that I saw that did this. Like, you have those VHS movies. It seems to be like mystery, thriller, horror movies that tell stories like through the lens of screens and shit like that. But this just does it really well. The prequel, by the way, Searching, 92% and 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. So if you haven't heard of these movies, check them out. Fun factor, goo. The mystery in here is fun. Anytime there's a mystery thriller and it's done well, that's always going to be fun. Satisfactor, not all that satisfying of a conclusion, but it's solid enough. Barometer, like I said, a little bit at the beginning, a tidbit here, but once this whole mystery and search gets underway, it's you're sort of gripped to the screen. Aquator, fuck you, dickhead. Pants Tent City, much like the conclusion, it sort of lacks a standout pants tent, but mysteries and thrillers sort of don't necessarily need them. If they're good enough, it keeps you gripped to the screen, on your toes the whole runtime. Halloween, this is a tough one to gauge because I feel like I want to go back and watch Searching now, which really doesn't mean anything for this movie, but for this universe I'm in on. Credit Union, Storm Reed is great. She carries this movie. She's the only on-screen person for like 75% of this movie. So that must have been really hard to act like through screens and shit like that. So credit to her. Hot dogs, goo. This may surprise you, but 35 hot dogs for me. My number 7 release of 2023. Just above it is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and just below it is The Flash.
I have your notes right here, so it didn't surprise me. I knew it was coming. Mac, next movie up here is a little movie that I saw, a little comedy that I saw back in July, and I can finally talk about it. I could have talked about it a little bit while ago here when it was still in theaters, really, but the embargo lifted a while ago. 2023 comedy, Joyride. 1 hour, 35 minutes, and some of that is the credits. It's 90 minutes. It's crisp.
Love
It is
that.
91% on the tomato meter, 82% audience score. Follows 4 Asian American friends as they bond and discover the truth of what it means to know and love who you are while they travel through China in search of their birth mothers. That's not entirely true. That's only one character, Kat, who is doing that. But IMDb, that's close enough, I
No,
suppose.
you misread it.
I don't care.
Through China in search of one of their birth mothers.
It's Kat's birth mother. I can tell you that.
That's a fucking spoiler.
Director, Adele Lim. Written by
This is a good one for you. Give it the old college try.
Sherry
Yep.
Sheva Pravad Damrung.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Sheva Damrung.
Sheva Pravada Dumrong, something like that. Yeah, that's an incredible name.
Written by. Also written by Teresa Shu. That's how you that's how they pronounce the shoe, right? If it's
I would
HS.
I would have probably said Shao, maybe.
Might be Shao. I'm sorry, we're not doing this on purpose. This is very difficult. Also, it's written by Asian women. So
yeah, there you go.
Adele Lim, and then it's starring Ashley Park as Kat, Sherry Cola, great name,
That's a great
as
name.
Lolo. Stephanie Shu, we know her from Everything Everywhere All at Once and To All the Boys I've Loved. She plays Kat. She doesn't play Kat. What is happening? I messed up a lot on this. She plays the friend who's already in China. She's a Chinese soap opera star.
Oh, so she doesn't have mother issues in this, like she did in her last movie.
Correct. And then Sabrina Wu plays Deadeye.
Deadeye's her nickname?
Yeah, Deadeye.
Does she have a dead eye?
I think her eyes go dead when she's staring off. That's
Or
what the joke is.
is she just zoned in when she throws something?
Also in this movie, surprised me, and I guess he was in the trailers, Baron Davis.
So that is interesting. I know that maybe, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if the listeners know this. Baron Davis signed a merchandise deal with a Chinese company called Li Ning back in like 2009 or 2010 and created some like cheap's a bad word, but inexpensive shoes for like much like Marbury did with the Starberries, did that, created some inexpensive shoes and some sweet t-shirts with this company.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't know if he's well known in China or whatnot, but I'm sure he's more popular in Asia than we sort of suspect.
So let me tell you this right now, Mac. I really enjoyed this movie. It is a good old-fashioned 90-minute sex romp.
Ooh, I like that.
Road trip style, man.
Is there nudity?
I don't know if there's necessarily nudity, but there is some raunchy, good gross out callback humor. This is a straight comedy, and when it sticks to the comedy, it's really funny. It does try to give you a little more heart, a little bit of a twist at the end, which is pretty good, but that's where you might meet some of the bore. Sure. But when they are going jokes, one-liners, pretty funny. Good stuff. Right. I would say even funniest movie on the year so far.
Whoa.
There's an amazing payoff to a K-pop scene, which gets into one of the callbacks. Now, pretty graphic on the callback too.
Oh, so I'm in on that stuff. You know what I'm not really in on is K-pop. I like 98% of music, and I get why K-pop is popular. Mm-hmm. I don't really like BTS and that. I'm not in on that. I don't know if you're a fan of that shit.
I will say that some of the bad in this would be getting when they get into like the classic tropes of like a buddy road trip.
Sure. Yeah, it's sort of unavoidable, I feel.
It really is. Like, you know how in every single one, the people that are traveling together, they get sick of each other, they break up, and then after that, they get back together. Not to spoil anything, but that happens in every single one of these movies.
Yeah.
So, Mac, very quickly, fun factor, it's tight. Literally tight. It's as tight as the devil's mouth.
Tight as a tiger.
And if you watch this movie, you'll understand what I'm saying.
Oh.
Satisfactor, nice little twist at the end, has you guessing, but that's also when it starts to hit the barometer in the third act. Halloween, I don't think so, because we've talked about this many of times. There's not a ton of comedies out there. Granted, this year we have seen more.
This year's been a strong year.
A straight comedy in the theater, because we've obviously gotten a bunch on Netflix that really aren't great, or on the streamers. Granted, what's the Andy Samberg one? I'm blanking right now. Palm Springs. That I feel like would have been a theater movie if the pandemic wasn't happening, but that was on Hulu. But that's one of the better streamer comedies that we've kind of gotten at all.
Yeah. Oh,
I
I'm
would say.
interested to see how I feel about this in regard, like weighing it against No Hard Feelings, and I'm interested to see how you feel once you see
I
that
will
as
watch
well.
that very, very soon. Aquator, it is higher. Pants Tent City, just tons of good jokes, and once again, a really good payoff to a joke that you're like, I wonder if they're going to show this, and they do. They do show it, Mac.
I like that.
Max Credit Union, good casting on the main 4 characters, and especially on Ashley Park. I think she's great as Kat.
Have we seen her in anything before? Would we know
I
her from
believe we
anything?
have. I didn't look any of this up.
Okay.
So you're asking the wrong person as the expert on this movie.
Sorry, didn't mean to ask you a question about the actress you were talking about.
Hot Dogs, 34, Mac. I got this right outside of that super hierarchy of my 2023 movies. I think it's the best comedy on the year. If we're talking straight comedy, I think it's also the funniest movie on the year.
But that's probably in your top 8 or 10 movies of the year then, though, right? At like 34?
Yes, absolutely is. I highly recommend it.
What did you say? That comes to streaming end of the month?
I didn't look that up. You're asking the wrong person.
All right. Well, fuck me then. I think you can buy it right now streaming, but it's not free to stream. The final property we're here to talk about today is a television show, streaming show, Twisted Metal, currently streaming on the Cock. Big day for the Cock.
Big Cock.
This is a TVMA action, adventure, and comedy. 10 episodes, roughly 30 minutes a piece here. On Rotten Tomatoes, Goose, 70% from the critics, 94% from the audience, which is honestly fucking shocking. Like if you told me that a Twisted Metal series, and even after they announced this like a year ago, that it was going to have a 70 and 94, I would say massive success. Metacritic of 53, which, you know what, I would actually say it's a success for Twisted Metal here. The showrunner for this, Goo, is Michael Jonathan Smith, who's also the showrunner for Cobra Kai. So I think a guy that has done a good job at taking like weird shit and older shit and putting it on screen for a today audience. The editor and writer on all 10 of these episodes there. I mean, there was quite a few, but the 2 characters that popped up in every episode here were Ife Nwadaway, who's he's like 33, 34, doing some good stuff, and Irving Ruan. Synopsis: follows a motor-mouthed outsider offered a chance at a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. So this is nothing new, really. We've all seen this setting 100 times before. You know, there's been a whole fallout, and now all the major cities in America are like sectioned off. They have a wall around the city. You can't get in. And then in the in-between, there are these drivers that like bring parcels from A to B. And so that's what Anthony Mackie's John Doe does. He's the star of this show. And he does a tremendous job. I was surprised. Like, we see him as Falcon and now as Captain America. And he's always been a good, like, little sidekick. But he's the star of this, and he does a great job. His co-star, Stephanie Beatriz, as Quiet. You would know her from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Mike Mitchell is Stu. Taj Vaughns is Mike. Samoa Joe is the body and the actor for Sweet Tooth. Will Arnett is the voice actor for Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth is the clown with the fire head. If anyone was going to know a Twisted Metal character, that would be the one. Thomas Hayden Church plays the bad guy in season 1 here, Agent Stone. And then Nev Campbell plays Raven. She is the person that tasks Anthony Mackie with getting that package from like Chicago to San Francisco. Fun factor in here, Goo. The whole thing is built on fun factor. It knows what it is. It doesn't try to be overly serious. It leans into the cheesy corniness of what makes Twisted Metal. Satisfactor. I think by design, the conclusion here, which is the case with many season 1 of television shows, by design, not that satisfying to sort of rope you back in and tease you for an upcoming season. And that's sort of exactly what this show does. Not a ton of boring here. Pretty quick 30-minute episodes in and out. It is a little video game-like episodic where they got to do side quest here, side quest here. But again, my expectations were low for this series. Equator. It's sort of Aquaman level quality, like in terms of joke telling and stylization. I just like this more than that. Halloween, I'm probably not going to rewatch this season, so it'll wane a little bit. Pants Tent City. There's a great fight scene in the finale of this season that is built upon what the video game did. Now, if you didn't know what the video game does, it's probably, 15, 16, 20 characters who all drive a vehicle, and then you just fight each other. And that's what happens in one of the scenes in the finale here. Credit Union, Anthony Mackie is really great as the lead in this. And then Goo, hot dogs here. I had a hard time weighing this because it's intentionally, like, the production quality is not super high, but it's also not distracting. I have this at like 30, 31 hot dogs. My expectations were a lot lower than this. I was expecting like 20, 22. So that really helped. It was an enjoyable watch, a quick watch, easy to get through all 10 episodes. So if you're looking for something to stream, I recommend Twisted Metal.
All right. So for the movies that we have seen, Mac does not recommend Asteroid City. I recommend the first 15 to 20 minutes of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Mac does recommend Missing. I recommend Joyride, and Mac recommends Twisted Metal.
Bang.
Oh, hi, it's Goo from the Mac and Goo Movie Club. If you like what you just saw, you can find full episodes of our program on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, CastBox, iHeartRadio, or wherever podcasts are found. And now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.